This is a Reforge reaction, and in this video, I'm going to be reacting to an article that says, "Stop complaining about skill-based matchmaking" from Screen Rant. If you like my reactions, check out my other ones. Check out Reforge Gaming, where I stream live. This has been debated quite a bit, so let's dive in. I already have a video reacting to Nero Cinema saying skill-based matchmaking needs to go. This article by Joanna Caziol from Screen Rant is saying we should stop complaining about it, so I'm very interested in what they have to say. Skill-based matchmaking has sparked controversy among various communities online, but this mechanic isn't hurting your game as much as you think. Well, it's all a part of my imagination. That's great. I can't wait to find out why. Recent debates about skill-based matchmaking in games like Modern Warfare 2 have led many to believe that this internal mechanic is ruining their experience in live service games. I love how twice now we're barely into the article and it's so condescending. It's like, I just believe that it's ruining my experience. It's not actually happening. Like, okay. It's caused no shortage of hot takes and heated exchanges on social media, but when looking at the bigger picture, it's clear that these claims embody a warped view of the matter. So not only am I just believing it, it's not actually happening, but I have a warped view of the matter. This article's off to a great start. Skill-based matchmaking is what makes a game's playing field level for all those who participate, regardless of skill level. That's just so wonderfully corporately written. That's not true at all. Skill-based matchmaking is an ad hoc, on-the-fly ranking system that puts you in matches according to your recent games, which is not leveling the playing field. It's reactive and terrible because one or two games where you played well or maybe at your best or who knows what led to it, that's not representative of your skill. A robust ranking system would do that, which is what most of us want. So then you could go into unranked and it's just random, and then you could go into ranked and it would do it according to your skill. Also, saying that it's what makes the playing field level for all those who participate, no, absolutely not, because you can't play with your friends if they're better than you. You can't meet a guy in the battlefield who's really good and invite him to come play with you, because skill-based matchmaking is going to drag you into matches according to their skill, and you're going to be grossly mismatched. So it's completely antithetical to the social and communal aspects of these games, because you can't play with your friends or your buddies who are way better than you unless you want to put up with fighting against players who are way better than you. So it's not leveling the playing field. It's doing quite the opposite most of the time. Although it may appear otherwise, yeah, it doesn't appear otherwise. That's the experience that we all have. It's why I stopped playing Fortnite and Apex, because I'm a very casual player, and when I play with players who play way more than me, it's not fun. So I can't play with my friends. Why am I going to play? This feature may be to thank for a lot of enjoyment that players receive out of PvP games. Yeah, all the people who don't trigger it, the only people who enjoy skill-based matchmaking are the people who don't trigger it. They get to live comfortably at the bottom of the player pool, while the rest of us get yanked around and experience what I call skill-based matchmaking whiplash. Hey, good stats? Come up here and get beat down. Oh, bad stats? Go down there and beat up on those people. It's like you just bounce back and forth between stomping on people well below your skill threshold, which isn't fun, and then you get yanked up and get beat down by people well outside your skill threshold. It's a reactionary trash system. The main basis for the criticism is that skill-based matchmaking makes unranked matches feel more sweaty or fierce, as it refines competition considerably. This isn't the main basis for the criticism. It's not that it just makes it more sweaty, it's that they're unranked matches. It doesn't make any sense. It's illogical. Tim the Tatman made a great point. He was like, why are you making me play in a competitive way in every game when there's no reward? Well, don't you just want to have fun and be challenged? My gosh, people need to shut up. Like, that's not the way people play these games. They want to have fun. They want to run a scuffed build. They want to hang out with their buddies. You can't do any of that. You have to play meta. You have to play hardcore. Goodness gracious, the Modern Warfare 2 game is constantly motivating you to change your loadout and do all these unlocks. You can't do that if it's constantly putting you into what feels like a ranked game, because you have to run your best loadout. You have to run the best kit. It's completely antithetical to the way these games have been traditionally built. No fun, no experimentation, no trying to find really good players to team up with. It's just constantly sweating and playing people in a competitive match. There's no denying the truth of that statement, and it is especially true for games such as the new release Modern Warfare 2, which has many multiplayer modes, but no ranked playlist. But while many people view this shift in a negative light, it actually increases the overall value players get out of these games. No, it doesn't. That's completely false. You're speaking for the entire player pool, and this is not representative of the entire player pool. Again, the only people who get protected and benefit from skill-based matchmaking are the players that are so bad they never trigger it. So it's not increasing the overall player experience for me. I average a 1 to maybe a 1.5 kill-death ratio, and I'm constantly getting yanked into games where I'm mismatched because it's just this random snapshot of my most recent games. I may have had a really good game, and it's not because I'm an insanely good player. There's so many things that go into a game turning out the way that it does. Maybe I had some good players on my team that had great map control, and they were constantly putting up UAV, so I was in a really good position and got a lot of kills. Maybe I had a kill streak that just hit a really good spot on the map and got a ton of people. That's not a snapshot of my actual skill rating. It's an ad hoc on-the-fly reaction to me having a good or decent game, and then I end up mismatched. So it doesn't increase the value for all players. And how does it increase the value for all players when you literally can't play with your friends who are better than you because it'll ruin your experience? Like, how is that increasing the value? By absolutely diluting the communal aspect of playing with your friends and meeting people in the game on the fly. Skill-based matchmaking not only makes matches more fair, no it doesn't, it also makes gameplay more gratifying and provides means for low-pressure skill progression. I swear, it's like a robot wrote this and tried to come up with the absolute most misrepresentative takes of skill-based matchmaking they could. This is not true at all. Skill-based matchmaking does not make matches more fair because all you have to do is play with your friend who's better than you to experience a match that is not fair. All you have to do is have one really good game or two really good games and you'll end up in matches that are really not fair. You'll be completely mismatched. It's miserable. It also makes gameplay more gratifying. No, it doesn't. Even if you get perfectly matched, and let's say for the entire night, you're sweating every game, and it's down to the wire every time, and it's super close, that's not more gratifying. That becomes so numb. It's so numbing. It's a meat grinder. There's no dynamics. There's no highs and lows. There's no, I had a really good game, then a medium game, then like an okay game. No, if every game is super sweaty and close, it's not more gratifying. It takes all the punch out of the experience away because you don't have any memorable matches. They all bleed together and blend together, and they feel very samey. It's not what these games were built on in the past. It provides a means for low-pressure skill progression. Absolutely, fundamentally bankrupt to say that. It's the opposite of low-pressure skill progression. Hey, you're doing better. Hey, you did well, and they yank you into an environment that's not low pressure. It's sweaty and stressful. I had an experience on one of the maps where I started playing better than I had traditionally. It's like one of the ones, it's like a horse stable. And suddenly, I just had a great position and had a good run of kills. Well, the games that followed were terrible because I had an unusually high game all of a sudden. That's not low-pressure skill progression. I wasn't sort of eased into the experience. I was yanked out of a lobby where I was having a great time, and when it ended, I ended up in some new lobby, and it was awful. Low-pressure skill progression. It's the exact opposite. For many years, skill-based matchmaking has been a feature in PvP games of varying genres. These algorithms take into account all aspects of an individual's performance and uses that information to calculate a hidden rank called MMR or matchmaking rating. Okay, this person is clearly not educated on the subject. This is not true. It does not take into account all aspects of your individual performance and then uses it to calculate a hidden rank. No. They're describing a ranking system. That's how ranking works. It takes into account a big giant snapshot of your career and how you perform, and it tries to put you in people within that ranked bracket. And the better you do and the more you play, the more you rank up. Skill-based matchmaking is literally the opposite of that. It is a snapshot of your most recent games, and your kill death is then used to try to put you against other players of similar kill death. Like, you're describing a ranking system, which is what we all want. I would love it if you took into account all of the aspects of my performance, like, oh, a 1.5 KD, but we also lost, or I was in the middle of the pack. So clearly I wasn't an amazing player in that server, and you could probably leave me in that pack of players because I did okay. I don't need to be moved. I don't need to be shuffled about. Also, Let's say you have a pretty good game and you get a 1.5 or a 2 KD, but the game was really close. Then why would you need to suddenly move me into a new player funnel? It doesn't take into account performance. I had 3 games and 2 of them were losses. And because my KD was good, I got thrown into sweat lobbies. So even though I lost 2 games, it didn't seem to matter. And they were fun games, by the way. I've had more fun losing sometimes than winning because it's before skill-based matchmaking fires. The first couple games of the day are typically the best. Though it's separate from the visible rank that players can earn by playing competitive modes, it's almost always used to create lobbies in said modes, automatically placing players of the same skill together and providing them with appropriate rivals. Yeah, this is doe-eyed optimism. That's not what it does. It doesn't pair you according to skill and appropriate rivals. Now, at the upper levels, maybe, but not at my threshold. If you're slightly above average, it is nothing but whiplash. Really, really good players that are way better than you, and then you get stomped and then back down into potato farming. Many games such as Overwatch 2, with its influx of new players, implement skill-based matchmaking into unranked modes, though. Well, that's what we're talking about. See, I think this person's confused. It's like up here they're describing a ranking system, and then down here they say, oh, yeah, some games also implement skill-based matchmaking into unranked modes. This person fundamentally misunderstands the topic. Skill-based matchmaking is not in ranked modes. Ranked modes have robust ranking systems so that you play against people of similar skill. Skill-based matchmaking put into unranked modes is typically an ad hoc, on-the-fly snapshot of your most recent games. The person that wrote this is just simply uninformed about how these systems work. No one describes a ranked and unranked system as skill-based matchmaking and connection-based. It's a robust ranking system. It looks at your entire career performance. It takes a snapshot of everything. It doesn't take like a quick sampling of your last couple of games. It's unbelievable. You wrote an article about skill-based matchmaking and you fundamentally misunderstand how it shows up in games. This specifically is a major point of contention, as some believe that public matches are more suited for random, unregulated matchmaking. Yeah, since it's unranked and public, it shouldn't play like a ranked mode. Hiding your ranking system and then making me constantly feel like I'm in a ranked match is silly. On paper, this may sound like a fun idea that is entirely fair in its unpredictability, but it's not quite so exciting in execution. A lack of skill-based matchmaking in unranked lobbies only benefits those who sit near the top of the game's food chain. This is demonstrably false. Most of the player pools are casual, or average or above average, right? That's the majority of most player pools. The majority of the player pool aren't the people who sit at the top of the food chain. So when you went into unranked lobbies with no skill-based matchmaking, the laws of averages would mean, and the laws of probability, basically mathematical probability, would mean you'd have a higher chance of running into average to above average to below average players, that meaty center. The very, very high-level players, those at the top of the food chain, you'd be less likely to run into them. So no, it doesn't just benefit them, it benefits anybody who isn't terrible. That's the point, right? I'm okay with a system of protecting the bottom of the barrel. The bottom 10% players should probably just be in lobbies with bots, but then the rest of us could just be in a connection-based environment. And mathematical probability would dictate that it's very unlikely I'm going to run into a pro, since they don't make up the majority of the player base, which would then mean a random environment would be far more dynamic and exciting and emergent, so that gameplay just sort of happened instead of feeling it was predetermined, which is what ranking systems do, which is why people want ranked and unranked, so you can kind of switch between the two experiences. As most of these player bases will be beneath them skill-wise, this will almost always give these players an inherent advantage. Yeah, and you see again, 3 or 4 average players against a team that has one really good player, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. If you give me a couple of really average players and there's only one pro on the other team, we're going to have probably a pretty good game. I played games that are like that. 2 or 3 people at the top are clearly really good, a couple of people in the middle, and then a couple of people at the bottom. Those end up being very fun matches because it's random. You're just kind of thrown in and you figure it out. You rally and have really good games. Those games are memorable because it's random and you get to kind of impact the flow of the map and the match. The influence of the RNG in Battle Royale games like Apex Legends, though it lacks a solo queue, arguably makes this less prevalent of an issue. However, in more fixed competitive environments, a teammate who is significantly more skilled than the rest can be a sole factor in carrying the team to the win. I mean, that's true. A really good player can turn the tide of a match, but so can 3 or 4 average players banding together and playing organized. So again, you're not allowing people to have those experiences. Hey, we banded together and we beat that guy, or we beat those 2 guys that were really good. You don't have those experiences. You just have this diluted, neutered experience where everybody's always in their own threshold of skill, and then those of us in the middle just get whiplashed between the two poles. While it might certainly be fun for higher-rated players to constantly play and win against lower-rated players, it's nightmarish experience in the opposite way around. Since a large portion of any given game's player base are casual players who may only... Wait, hang on a minute. This breaks down mathematically. Okay, I want you to listen to how they contradict themselves. While it might certainly be fun for higher-rated players to constantly play and win against lower-rated players, it's nightmarish. But then here they say, since a large portion of any given game's player base are casual players... Okay, that means that casual players have a greater probability of running into casual players, which means you can't say they would constantly play and win against lower-rated players. You're creating a massive, massive miscalculation here. No, they wouldn't constantly play and beat lower-rated players because the lion's share of the player pool is in that beefy middle. Again, it's just a fundamental misunderstanding of how player pools break down. As Twitter user Adam states, replying to a tweet from streamer Dr. Disrespect, skill-based matchmaking is literally the implementation of go pick on someone your own size. No, see, again, that would only be true if the entire player pool was potatoes. That would be true, but it's not true. If guys like Doc were like, you know, he's one of the better players, right? Get out of here, Doc. You can't play with all of us. We're all potatoes. That's such a misrepresentation of how these player bases break down. I know for a fact that the player pool is not all potatoes because I play 1 or 2 matches. There are some potatoes in there. They're pretty easy to kill. And then I end up in absolute sweatfest lobbies. I do not think that it's as simple as like, oh, go pick on someone your own size. What do you mean? In a purely connection-based environment, Doc would run into people close to his skill level, maybe a little bit further from it, way farther from it, maybe somebody at or above his skill level. It'd be random. That's what makes it fun. It's unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen. It makes for memorable moments. Without it, many players, casual or otherwise, may find themselves frequently overmatched by significantly more skilled players, souring what could otherwise be a satisfying experience. Yeah, what's so harmful in playing against players that are better than you? I'm apparently supposed to put up with that, by the way. I constantly get told to get good and adapt. Like I say, hey, I get yanked out of these lobbies and put in lobbies where everybody's way better than me. Oh, it's a skill issue. You should get good and adapt. Okay, well then so should all the players that don't want to be in games with Doc and other people that are really good. Why is it okay for them to say, I don't want players that are better than me in my lobby, but when I say it, I'm somehow supposed to adapt? It's just drenched in hypocrisy to ask for a system to keep good players out of your lobbies, but it's totally fine if I'm constantly thrown into lobbies where I'm facing people out of my skill threshold. If you really want to learn and adapt, you can't be put against people that are so grossly outside of your skill threshold. If it's random, you have opportunities to meet people who are at, near, or well above your skill threshold, so you're constantly having different experiences. That's not going to lead to you getting better if you're constantly protected from players that are better than you. So when many argue skill-based matchmaking matches are sweatier, they are correct, but this is not necessarily unhealthy for the game. According to you, it's unhealthy for those of us that stop playing. It's unhealthy for people who want to play with their friends who are better than them. It's unhealthy for people who have mediocre stats that are then used to dictate me landing in lobbies that are terrible and unfun. Yeah, that's pretty unhealthy. Because each participant harbors roughly the same skill, many will strive to perform to their best ability, hoping to provide their team with a minor, albeit impactful edge. This can be stressful and even frustrating at times, but it's far more rewarding than the alternative. What's the alternative? It's just random. This is like, again, this is predetermined meat grinder gameplay where it always feels the same. Having a teammate who is able to dominate opponents is fantastic, especially in Modern Warfare 2's various kill streaks, but it quickly turns miserable for those on the receiving end who may find themselves unable to change the outcome of the match despite their efforts. I love how this is written because do you know how you get kill streaks in Modern Warfare 2? Do you know how you get kill streaks in Call of Duty? I'm gonna blow your mind. You do it by dominating your opponents. That's literally what a kill streak is. And this person is literally saying that that's bad and that shouldn't be happening, which basically means you're designing a system that's antithetical to the systems within Call of Duty. You're basically saying, let's design a system that limits the possibilities and the opportunities for somebody to dominate, which limits the opportunities and possibilities for somebody to get a kill streak, which makes for redundant, repetitious, super close game meat grinder gameplay. So basically design a system that limits the ability for somebody to dominate, which means kill streaks never show up. Like, what? Why invalidate that entire system or make it almost entirely moot? Not many players enjoy feeling inadequate or powerless, and a match like this may lead to players becoming angry or flat out giving up. Yeah, that's what I've been doing, because it isn't fun to constantly get beat down. I agree with that, and an unranking random system wouldn't lead to that prevalency. Skill-based matchmaking leads to that prevalency for me. It's why I stopped playing. It actually creates the very thing it's supposed to protect against, which is just so frustrating. Skill-based matchmaking prevents situations like this almost entirely. No, it does not. See, when someone says that, this is written by someone who's so bad, they never trigger skill-based matchmaking. Anybody who's good enough to trigger skill-based matchmaking knows that this isn't true. Avoiding feeling powerless and being against players that makes you want to give up. Skill-based matchmaking literally has made me do this in Fortnite and Apex and now Modern Warfare 2. Why? I can't play with players who are better than me. I can't find and recruit players that are better than me because it'll get me drug into lobbies that are horrible. And if I put up even the remotest of good stats, mediocre stats, anywhere from a 1 to a 2 KD, I get drug into lobbies where I get crushed. So when someone says skill-based matchmaking prevents situations like this almost entirely, you're just admitting that you never get it to trigger because you're so bad at the game, you never ever get drug out of your threshold of skill, which that's great for you. I don't want really low skilled players having a bad time either, but it isn't fair to basically say, well, the system protects them and it's therefore valid. Well, what's it doing for me? We all should be able to approach the game and have a reasonable expectation of fun. While matches may last a bit longer and may result in more close calls, yes, they last longer and result in more close calls, which minimizes dominating the opponents and getting kill streaks. That's literally you diluting the game down into a rehearsed, predictable meat grinder. The system gives each player an opportunity to have a meaningful impact on their matches. Yes, through basically kill trading. Like, if you're not dominating and getting kill streaks and it's a super close match, your impact on the match is basically kill trading, which means every game comes down to a who gets the last kill, which then wins and losses become indistinguishable from each other, which is not memorable and isn't a meaningful impact. You just went in and killed people as often as you died. You didn't dominate. You didn't get kill streaks. Just some neutered, bland, predictable experience. Skill-based matchmaking gives all players a chance to hone their skills without queuing for competitive matches, which are often hostile and high stakes. Yeah, again, this reads like somebody who never triggers skill-based matchmaking because it actually doesn't let me hone my skills and go into places that aren't hostile and high stakes. You're literally creating a ranking system, but you're just not calling it a ranking system, and it constantly puts people in matches that feel like ranked matches, so they're constantly in an environment that is competitive and hostile and high stakes. You're just not calling it ranked. Although everyone is bound to improve naturally over time. I actually disagree with that. I think a lot of people stagnate and plateau. I'm one of those people. My KD will never be much higher than a 1 to a 1.5 KD. It just won't. I'm casual and don't have the time to commit. This matchmaking system can give them a push in the right direction. It pushes me right out the dadgum door. PvP titles have been growing increasingly complex. League's got a new person, roster of 162 characters. Feeling overwhelmed. Okay, no one cares about that. When skill-based matchmaking matches players with others of similar skill level, they are able to practice their gameplay in a comparatively low-stress environment. Again, written like you've never experienced skill-based matchmaking. It is not a low-stress environment. It's the opposite of a low-stress environment, and it makes people want to quit. So again, you wrote this in a way that felt like it confused it with ranked systems. That's not what skill-based matchmaking is. And it also feels like it's never experienced the bad side of skill-based matchmaking, which means you probably never triggered it. Conversely, skill-based matchmaking matches without skill-based matchmaking don't guarantee such fruitful experiences. In many cases, players will be placed with or against players who are exponentially more skilled than them. Actually, we already addressed this. No. The mathematical probability is that you would be placed against players all across the skill spectrum, which means you would meet people at, above, and well beyond your skill level, which gives you an opportunity to see where you stack up. Regardless of whether that high-ranked player is friend or foe, this takes most, if not all, opportunity for improvement away, as they will either be effortlessly carried to victory or lose in a confusing manner. Yeah, and congratulations, nobody wants to play with anybody who's better than them now, because it takes them into skill-based matchmaking lobbies that are horrendous and unfun. You're driving a wedge between players. Good job. Even if a player is matched with those who are below their skill rating, it doesn't provide them with the aforementioned challenge and may result in stagnation. Yeah, like, I don't know, always putting people in lobbies of people at their skill level, like if you're always against people who are 0.5 KD, yeah, that might result in stagnation, you think? Though skill-based matchmaking seems to be angering some Modern Warfare 2 players at the moment, it's a crucial element to any successful PvP title. Disagree. The complaint that it makes lobbies more difficult is understandable, but to leave it at that without offering a broader perspective is disingenuous. You mean disingenuous like talking about it like it creates fair, low-stress environments for people to learn, as you've done in this article? How about disingenuous as you describe it, as it's a broad snapshot of all of your performance? Because that's not what it is. You literally describe skill-based matchmaking as if it was a ranking system. Talk about being disingenuous. Games are competitive in nature, and it's impossible to avoid that aspect entirely. Knowing this, skill-based matchmaking proves to be a wise choice, not only creating balanced matches, but making them feel rewarding in every sense of the word. No, it's actually not rewarding in every sense of the word, because you're making me play in what feels like a ranked, highly competitive environment, and there is no reward. It's not a ranking system. There is no ranking up. It's terrible, and it makes us stop playing. And I got news for you. Right now, if you think skill-based matchmaking is wonderful, I get a 1 to a 1.5 KD. That's all it takes to put me into very sweaty lobbies. So that's what you have to look forward to. If you get to my mediocre level of casual skill, that's what you can look forward to. Really sweaty lobbies, completely mismatched against players who are way better than you, because, you know, skill-based matchmaking leads to low-stress environments where you can learn and improve your skill and not feel like it's a high-stakes competitive environment, even though everything in this article seems to indicate that it should lead to very competitive environments, because it's essentially a ranking system without being called a ranking system. And if players at my skill level walk away, have fun with the player base that's either a potato or a pro. Because when the meaty center, that casual center, leaves, you're not going to have much left. If you guys like these reaction videos, check out Reforge Gaming, where I stream live. Check out my other reactions here. Hit subscribe and the bell button, and I'll see you in the next Reforge reaction.